since the assassination of Dr. King in 1968, more Americans have died from gunshots than all the American soldiers who fell on the battlefield, starting from the Revolutionary War all the way up to Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond. Let me repeat that. More Americans since 1968 have died from gunshots than all our American soldiers who fell on the battlefield, starting from the Revolutionary War all the way up to Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond. California passed major gun control legislation in 1967 after Black Panthers showed up inside the state capitol, brandishing rifles. And then more gun control laws were passed nationally in 1968 following the assassinations of Dr. King and Robert F. Kennedy. But this is America, and guns are big business. So while the crime rate in America dropped precipitously, some believe it dropped thanks to Roe v. Wade, decreasing the number of unwanted children born into abusive families. But despite the crime rate dropping precipitously year after year, the National Rifle Association, in the service of gun manufacturers, convinced a large swath of the nation that the country was less safe, that the police can't protect you, that the government is your enemy, trying to confiscate your weapons in order to exert total authority over you, so you need to buy a gun. Well, most Americans were and still are smart enough to see through this corporate propaganda designed to sell guns. That's why states like Massachusetts, Hawaii, New Jersey, New York, and Rhode Island all passed strict gun laws and now have the lowest number of gun deaths per capita in the country. But over time, other states loosened gun restrictions and began passing laws allowing people to carry in public. States like Mississippi, Louisiana, New Mexico, Alabama, and Wyoming have some of the laxest gun laws in America and also the highest per capita number of gun homicides. It's hard to think of anyone who stained the memory of Dr. King more than Wayne LaPierre. I mean, there are many, but Wayne LaPierre is up there. Using racist dog whistles, Wayne LaPierre sold guns by lying about soaring crime rates. He relied on racist dog whistles. He convinced Americans that black people were all carrying, so white people had to carry as well. Today, because of this, black people are 3 times more likely to get shot and killed by a cop than a white person, because our cops have been brainwashed into thinking every black man is carrying a gun. Thank you, Wayne LaPierre. The NRA should be called the National Racist Association. The NRA was all in on gun control after those Black Panthers exercised their Second Amendment rights in 1967, walking through the state capitol with rifles. But by 2020, at the height of the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests, Salon reports that the NRA resorted to flagrant racism. Instead of condemning the shooting of unarmed black men by police, the NRA came to the defense of the cops and compared Black Lives Matter to ISIS, and even worse, the Nazis. Now, I've been over this, and I'm not going to do it now, but I'll go over it in the future. The Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful. People only got hurt when the police showed up and turned it into a police riot, or when somebody like Kyle Rittenhouse showed up with AR-15s. But there's not a single shred of evidence of Black Lives Matter protesters setting fire to a building, hitting or punching anybody. The cops, read the Washington Post reporting on this, read the New York Times reporting on this. Those protests didn't get violent until the cops showed up. And here in New York, began driving their cars, patrol cars, into the protesters, and worse. Not going to talk about it right now, because I got some really more fun things to talk about. This is, I like to give good news. I know sometimes it gets a little heavy here. I got a chip on my shoulder, but I got some good news. The head of the NRA's head is shrinking. The head of the NRA's head is shrinking. Actually, it's his brain. His brain is shrinking. Could it get any smaller? Wayne LaPierre's brain is shrinking. So says his attorney in the New York State civil fraud trial against the gun rights organization, accusing LaPierre of stealing as much as $45 million from donors. LaPierre, who stepped down from the organization 2 weeks ago, he's still running it. He announced he's leaving it on January 31st. He's still in charge. And he's slated to testify sometime this week. But his attorneys are requesting flexibility in his schedule due to brain shrinkage associated with Lyme disease. Yes, Wayne LaPierre is suffering from Lyme disease, which you get from deer. The head of the #1 champion for deer hunters is dying of Lyme disease. And who says deer don't fight back? I mentioned this for any of my listeners who still don't believe there's a God. Wayne LaPierre is dying of Lyme disease. His lawyers, he's not dying of Lyme disease, but he's trying to get out of testifying. His lawyers say the Lyme disease has left LaPierre feeling completely drained, just like the bank accounts for the National Rifle Association after LaPierre and his wife enjoyed spending sprees on Rodeo Drive and vacations in Lake Como. How did Wayne LaPierre contract Lyme disease? It's not like he's a woodsman, stalk and prey. He wouldn't want the mud to get on his capizios. Lawyers for LaPierre say his brain is experiencing significant cerebral volume loss. If it gets any smaller, he'll start donating to the National Rifle Association. Lawyers say his family has a history of dementia. Yeah, Wayne LaPierre's family has a history of dementia, which will come in handy for Wayne's golden years, when he won't be able to look back at his life and remember the hundreds of thousands of Americans who would still be alive today if he weren't a shill for the gun manufacturers. Lucky you to go into the twilight with dementia. You won't have to remember who you really are and what you've done to this country. Well, like I said, the 70-year-old LaPierre is still in charge of the NRA. He wraps up his nearly 4-decade rule over this murderous organization on January 31st, but he continues to pen screeds on the NRA's website, insisting that the government is coming for your guns. Well, Wayne, it looks like the government is also coming for your ill-gotten nest egg, too. They're coming for your money, Wayne. They want you to pay the National Rifle Association back. LaPierre is an ardent opponent, as we know, of an assault weapons ban. He says guns keep us free from the prying eyes of our government. We don't want an assault weapons ban because it protects us from an overly intrusive government. Instead of an assault weapons ban, Wayne LaPierre says gun violence would be reduced dramatically if the government kept a national database of Americans who suffer from mental illness. Yeah, that's a good way to keep us free from the prying eyes of an overly intrusive government. Cops having access to my medical files. I am stunned by how little coverage this trial is receiving. It's incredible. It pulls the Band-Aid off and exposes precisely why 50,000 Americans die each year from gun violence. It's all about money, all about profits. People like Wayne LaPierre have taken the Second Amendment and turned it into an advertising slogan for the weapons manufacturers who, like any business, must increase profits each quarter by finding new markets or victims. Assault weapons are a growth industry thanks to people like Wayne LaPierre, whose solution to gun violence has always been more guns. There's a mass shooting at a school, sell guns. Arm the teachers, arm the students. And you better stock up on more guns and ammunition so you'll have some left when the government comes and takes it all away from you. I don't believe there's a devil, but if there is a devil, it's Wayne LaPierre. 3 years ago, wait, some of you already know this story. 3 years ago, video surfaced of LaPierre on a hunting trip in Botswana trying to shoot an elephant back in 2013 as part of a documentary the NRA was making about whatever. They wanted to portray Wayne LaPierre as a sportsman. He isn't. According to The New Yorker, Wayne LaPierre displayed the marksmanship of Mr. Magoo. The video of him in Botswana on an elephant hunt. Devil. Only the devil goes on an elephant hunt. The video shows what a poor marksman he is, literally unable to shoot an elephant that was already wounded on the ground and dying. LaPierre's inability to finish off the elephant properly was deemed inhumane by hunters who saw the video and said he violated the ethical codes of the very organization he was running. Originally, the NRA was all about ethical hunting, learning how to use a rifle, not killing anybody. Wayne LaPierre turned it into a trade association for gun makers. On this video, LaPierre fires 4 times at the wounded elephant, but keeps missing. The guide, the safari guide, can be heard on the video laughing and saying, "I have no idea where you're aiming." This is the head of the National Rifle Association. Another video shows LaPierre's wife, Susan, killing an elephant successfully. She's a much better shot. And on the video, to celebrate her kill, she cuts off the elephant's tail and waves it in front of the camera, shouting victory. The Washington Post reports that the African forest elephant killed by Susan LaPierre has seen a decline in population by 60% in the last 50 years. You know, I'm a hateful, bitter, vindictive person. Who would kill an elephant? Who would kill an elephant? Some things I understand. Killing an elephant. Well, Wayne LaPierre has been right all along about one thing. There are bad people in this world we need to be protected from. Wayne and Susan LaPierre. In a letter to the judge, Wayne LaPierre's doctor, Rachel Markey, asked that Wayne be relieved of testifying or be given be allowed to testify for a shorter time. She wrote that her client, Wayne LaPierre, suffers from, I'm going to read this slowly. He suffers from copious physical and mental conditions such as cognitive dysfunction, enervation, fatigue, painful blurry eyes, cognitive impairment, brain-eye dissonance, dysomnia, myalgias, myalgias, dysautonomia, postural orthostasis, mononeuritis multiplex. I think I saw Barbie at the mononeuritis multiplex. Didn't do well with the Academy Award nominations. Was supposed to do better. He's got dermatitis and headaches, unquote. You know what? That doesn't sound like Lyme disease to me. It sounds like he's got a guilty subconscious. He's got a guilty subconscious. All that stuff isn't from the Lyme disease. It's your body punishing you for the hundreds of thousands of Americans who died so you could sell guns and go to Lake Como and buy designer suits on Rodeo Drive. The New York State trial against the NRA is going into its 11th day. Former NRA board president Carolyn Meadows testified under oath that she had no idea that on her excuse me maybe I have a guilty subconscious, or maybe I'm just really happy. Maybe all is well in the universe as I cover this story. Maybe everything my parents taught me about human nature has been borne out. Former NRA board president Caroline Meadows testified under oath this week that she had no idea that on her NRA fundraising trip to Paris, the NRA shelled out nearly $100,000 for black car limousines. Everybody had their hand in the till. Meadows testified that Colonel Oliver North became president of the NRA, a job that was honorary, which meant it paid nothing. So NRA TV was set up as a pass-through company so that North could be paid $2 million a year to host a television program in order, North reportedly claimed, to make up for the lost income after leaving Fox News to become honorary president of the NRA. These are pass-through companies. You know who Dana Loesch is? She hosted NRA TV. Nobody was watching it. It was a pass-through company, a shell company. NRA TV, according to the testimony, according to the New York State Attorney General, was set up by the advertising firm of Ackerman McQueen, which LaPierre is accused of using to run millions of dollars of personal expenses through. Ackerman McQueen, they're a Washington, D.C., a Georgetown-based firm that got all its money from the National Rifle Association, and apparently, according to the DA, the NRA would give them close, I guess, over time, $130 million to do public relations for the National Rifle Association, and they returned the favor by giving Wayne LaPierre an American Express card. On Tuesday, Oliver North testified in the civil fraud trial filed against the National Rifle Association. Now, North served briefly as president of the NRA from 2018 to 2019. He was courted by LaPierre. LaPierre said he desperately needed someone like Oliver North to help LaPierre be the face of the NRA. LaPierre wasn't the president. He was like the CEO. North testified that as president, he began to delve into the finances and was stunned to discover that LaPierre was paying the NRA's law firm as much as $2 billion, $2 million a month by 2019. Well, after Oliver North began poking into the financials, LaPierre, according to North's testimony, told him, quote, "Stay in your lane. Stop doing this. Stop asking questions." We'll be following this. A lot of people aren't interested in this trial. I don't know why. So we're going to follow this trial.
It's time right now for the David Feldman Show. So get